I have in the studio Henry Kwabna Kokofo. He's a member of parliament for Bantama, and he's in the studio. Thanks. Nana, how are you?
Thank you.
I see that you're taking your recess very coolly.
Yes, let me begin by saying...
No, we haven't begun yet.
We haven't begun
Yes, we're also having the studio Dr. Rashid Pelpo, Abdul Rashid Pelpo is a member of parliament for WA Central, but also the minister in charge of the PPPs as well as the private sector at the presidency. And we say thanks for joining me, sir.
Thank you.
All right. How do you spend your Yuletide?
Oh, well,
you're working?
Just, no, I spent it in WA and meeting my people and thanking them for voting for me. You remember you predicted I was going to win, so
yes, I did.
It happened.
I would have been surprised if it didn't win. All right. And you also, I see you're taking your recess very coolly.
Yes, not that coolly. We're still working around. We go to the constituencies and we need to move around, checking on individual people's problems and challenges, and then the collective interest of the communities. And then constantly you need to appraise yourself with national interest issues that are cropping up day in and day out. And we are also with Nana Dudanko Kukwado on the trail, campaign trail, moving around here and there. So it has not been all that holiday. But I should be quick in saying that during the New Year period, we are fortunate to have Daddy Lumba played in Kumasi, a live concert, and it was quite interesting.
You were there?
Yes, of course, yes. Lumba is
at least you needed to shed off the pressure.
Exactly.
Right.
So, yeah.
We're talking about pressure. We know that pressure group Occupy Ghana says it will head to court if government fails to provide answers to some 23 questions posed about the decision to shelter 2 former Guantanamo Bay detainees in Ghana. And yesterday, our friend and also my colleague Evans Mensah talked to an official of the U.S. Embassy here in Accra, and so would want to bring you that very interview in the Joy FM studios, and then we'll come back, do a lot more analysis of what the content are, and also what the president had earlier on said in his interaction with the press about why Ghana decided to take the refugees. So first we start with the president's own take on the reasons for accepting the GITMO reject, as well as the explanations by the U.S. official as he was interacting with Evans Mensah.
President Obama, when he was elected, ordered a review of every detainee at Guantanamo Bay. So yes, everyone who was being detained went through this comprehensive interagency review that looked at all the information that we had on each detainee and made a determination about their eligibility to be transferred.
Okay, it's important to make the point about eligibility to be transferred. You didn't say anything about whether they are security threat or not. Did the document say anything about that specifically?
A detainee can only be transferred if it's been determined that any threat could be mitigated by the receiving country. And so if there is any possible threat, then we talk to the receiving country and receive their assurances about their ability to mitigate that threat.
You're talking about our ability to mitigate, that's the key important word used there. But I want to return to some of the key things captured in this document that the New York Times and Telegraph published. There are some facts about being a TEF, though, that will not change, regardless of how much time has elapsed since the last assessment was done in 2007. And the last assessment, in fact, includes these facts that might not change and will not change, includes, quote, served as a fighter in the Osama bin Laden 55th Arab Brigade, and that he traveled to northern Afghanistan and fought on the front lines in Kunduz. Yesterday we heard our president say, that you told them, told us, our government, that they also did an independent assessment, that both detainees played, quote, no operational role in Afghanistan. Now, that certainly cannot be true, because at least Benatev was on the front line fighting, according to the DoD document in 2007.
Again, it's our policy, as you know, not to comment on any alleged leaked classified cables. But I noticed that you said last assessment, and so I want to clarify again that no, the last assessment was the assessment that was done by the task force in 2009 and 2010. That looked at the comprehensive set of information. And so any previous reports would have been just one piece of that puzzle that the task force reviewed.
I get that, but nonetheless, as I stated, some facts about where he was, what he did, remains facts. Regardless of when you do that assessment, it will remain facts. And I'm putting that against what we've heard, that Atev never played an operational role in Afghanistan when he did.
Any information that we would have had on any detainee prior to 2009 would have been, as I said, just one piece of the puzzle, one piece of this comprehensive grouping of information that the task force looked at. And they looked through this and looked at the reliability of all that information to make a final determination on the detainee.
And I'm curious though, how does
the detainees question was a direct request from the United States of America to my government. We have been allies with the United States for a very long time. It didn't start today. We have partnered in a lot of things, and we continue to collaborate in areas of security, in areas of training with our armed forces, in areas of defense. And so when we received a request like this, we said we will appraise it, and based on the appraisal, we will take a decision. Extensive consultation was held both internally and externally. A risk assessment was done by the US itself, and these two detainees, Al-Dubi and Bin Atef, were considered to be the most compliant detainees in Guantanamo camp. And they were put in the lowest risk category in Guantanamo. And let me be clear, people say, ex-convicts. They were never tried, they were never charged, they were never convicted. These were 20-year-old boys. At the time they were picked up, they were 20 years old. And I can imagine my own son, who is 20 years old, you know, and the state at which he is. They were picked up, they were taken to Guantanamo, they were interrogated, you know, and investigated, and there was no evidence with which they could be tried or charged. As Commander-in-Chief of the Ghana Armed Forces, the safety and security of this country is of the greatest concern to me, probably than any Ghanaian. I will not take any decision that would jeopardize the safety and security of this country. We must also look at the side of compassion. You know, I'm a Christian, and in the Bible it teaches us to be compassionate to prisoners. That is, even persons who have been convicted. These people were not convicted. And so where is our Christian passion? Or where is our faith-based compassion on people that, after being detained for 14 years without trial, we can't find it in our hearts, you know, to give these people at least a chance to restart their lives. And so there's been no consideration received for accepting these detainees. And as the Commander-in-Chief of Ghana Armed Forces, I have assessed the risk. Our National Security Council briefed me. We have had several sessions with the Americans. People went to Guantanamo and personally interviewed these people. And I believe that we don't, our security is not endangered because they are in our country.
And so you get to see that really they were not as innocent as we think they are. That is, if you get to just oppose what the president is saying with what the leaked documents as published by the various newspapers in the UK, some in the US, etc., as to what also the US Embassy is saying. Some of them just don't gel. And I have to ask you, with some of these things coming up, does it then also call into question the decision we decided to make at the end of the day, to make sure that we are in a position to say that, well, they were rightly in a position to be brought into our country? I have to start with you, Dr. Rashid Popo.
Well, thank you very much, and good morning to our viewers. I believe very strongly that what the president has said and the decision government has taken is the best way to go for Ghana. And The reason being our historical antecedent of who we are, what we did in the past, what we conceive as freedom for people, all people, and it's also seen in our constitution, in our code of arms. We demonstrated strength and reliability for all people. I remember when Nelson Mandela was still in prison, he was declared a terrorist. But we celebrated him in Ghana. We devoted a whole radio program to Mandela. And as a young man, I was one of the few people who were demonstrating on the streets single-handed. Very few people singly, what do you call it, individuals demonstrating on the streets in support of Nelson Mandela's release. Several other situations occurred when foreign countries will declare an individual as a terrorist. And we decided that we would see him as somebody who is a human being and seeking freedom. And just let me draw the attention of our Ghanaian citizens about the Palestinian embassy here. You know, several countries may see them to be terrorists. They don't want to hear them. We have agreed to have an embassy here. We deal with them. And Sahrawi African Republic, they are seen as not a country, and anybody who is attempting to create space as if to suggest that they are a country is seen to be against the establishment or the status quo and contravening the laws of Morocco. We accept them here. They have an embassy. So Ghana is a beacon of hope for all such people, including the detainees at Guantanamo Bay who had not been tried, had not been found guilty, they were not established
to have done wrong.
Yeah.
After years of being there, you say.
Rulings or decisions that they had done any wrong or they had done any terrorist act. So if the president, in his wisdom, and the government have decided to accept them here, it is only logical that we should praise ourselves for responding to our old age tradition and DNA of accepting people who are suffering and who need salvation. And we provide that salvation in Ghana. We'll continue to do that. It is part of our life. It is part of our political and international political nature to do that.
Almost a speech saying, so to speak, what the Ghanaian proverbial hospitality is, so to speak. But it doesn't discount the fact that, well, we know there may be argument that when you get somebody, especially in a swoop, when some of these young men and women are rounded up, and especially within a period when the U.S. saw that terrorism was high, and looking at where they were picked up from, definitely had to be initial charges that will be put on them, whether overtly or covertly. Well, we have had those published in the UK and US newspapers, but does that seem that they are the same people and nobody's amenable to change?
Let me, then I have the
floor.
The floor to say good morning to your cherished viewers, and I've done is watching your program. This Guantanamo thing, what our president is saying, what the other informations are trickling in, what the lady the interview your colleague had with her, does not, as it were, portray a clear picture. There have been contradictions here and there, and we expected the president to do more than what he actually did when he met the press. And I'm not too much enthused because we are waiting for him in Parliament. He's surely to come there to give the State of the Nation address, and we hope it will be there. But I'm happy I have my senior colleague here, and the president would have done as good and himself and his government if he had been able to tell us under what circumstances these sort of things came in, because he talked about
under what circumstances, what sort of things came in terms of the decision to.
Yes, he talks about a request was made and all that. Extensive consultations, both local and external, internal and external consultation. Under what? Because we're talking about international relations here, and international relations and diplomacy, the geopolitics of it is being governed by a constitutional instrument, a constitutional provision in our constitution. You go to Article 73 of the 1992 Constitution, and 73 clearly tells us what is there. If you give me the permission, I'll read for your viewers too.
The Constitution?
Yes.
Okay, please do. You have the floor, you're at liberty.
Yes, good.
You can refer to the Constitution all you want.
Yes.
Okay.
Article 73 is clear. Page 62 of the 1990 Constitution. International relations. The government of Ghana shall conduct its international affairs in consonance with the accepted principles of public international law and diplomacy in a manner consistent with the national interest of Ghana. And the operative word here is national interest of Ghana.
Okay, in this very case, what's the national interest of Ghana?
I'm coming. Then you jump to 75.1. The president may execute or cause to be executed treaties, agreements, or conventions in the name of Ghana. 2. A treaty, agreement, or convention executed by or under the authority of the president shall be subject to ratification by A. Act of Parliament, or B. A resolution of Parliament supported by the votes of more than 1/2 of all the members of Parliament. Now, let me do justice to this piece here. In the first instance, 73 talks about in the interest of Ghana. So the president should tell us in this arrangement what is the interest of Ghana in here, because he's saying there are no considerations there. What is the interest of Ghana? The public interest. That's one aspect. Then 2, he should tell us under which of the 3, agreements, treaties, or conventions. We do not know. Suppose it is none of them. Then we can easily, from his own, flowing from his own assertions, we can easily place this kind of thing under conventions, because it talks about USA being our allies. We've been collaborating here and there. So then,
which is true.
Which is true. So then what are conventions? Then you go to what are conventions. The concise Oxford Dictionary defines convention as a way in which something is usually done. That is socially acceptable behavior. Something that is usually done, and it is socially acceptable behavior. That's the dictionary, number 1 of it. Number 2, an agreement between states, especially one less than a treaty. That is for the concise dictionary, Oxford. When you get to the Black's Law Dictionary, page 355 of it, it says, a generally accepted rule or practice, usage, or costume.
So your point is?
So my point is, the whole arrangement can be well situated in a convention.
Okay, let me ask you this. We have a diplomatic relationship with the United States,
yes,
which date back decades.
Yeah.
Okay, in that very relationship, in biology, we say it would have been a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah.
It's almost a give and take.
Yeah.
Okay. In a situation where the policy of an ally you have is that it wants to disband or perhaps also clear out a certain cell it has in its territory and has appealed to its allies externally to help clear that very cell, and you have you have been told that there's no inimical danger to you harboring or accommodating or being receptive to any member of that very cell. What is wrong with it? Just because you have a certain diplomatic relationship.
That is too.
What is so unconventional about it?
It is convention. You agree?
I think it's conventional. Yeah.
Good. That's what.
Because the United States, for example,
Yeah.
has bases in Germany.
Yeah.
As part of its strategic alliance.
Yeah.
With NATO, etc.,
Yeah.
has bases in South Korea,
Yeah.
has bases elsewhere in the China Seas,
Yeah.
has bases elsewhere around the world.
Yeah.
So what's the point?
So it's a convention.
I mean, from what you're reading, I feel so.
Good. If it is a
because
convention,
it's based on a certain relationship we have as allies.
Custom, usage. Is it not the case?
Yes.
So then, there's a constitutional breach. So then, Parliament ought to have ratified this. So then, the President should have come to Parliament It is a requirement of the Constitution. That is the point I want to draw.
Okay.
Hope. You understand?
I do understand that.
Yes, if it is a convention.
So if it was brought before Parliament.
Yes.
Okay, I do get your point.
And
But
then-
you're also a
and then-
member of Parliament. No, I'll get your point. You're also a member of Parliament.
Yes.
If a situation like this was brought before Parliament, it means it will be debated, or it will be an act, or it will be a bill that will be brought before it, or
No.
in what way would it have been put?
This whole argument he's posing.
Yeah,
is-
because actually this argument has been posed by the pressure group Occupy Ghana as well. So he's not that there's a breach in the 1992 Constitution.
I haven't seen any breach at all.
Well,
and
there's something.
I cannot even see how conventions are part of this argument or this debate. Conventions are practices that are
Over
existent in a country over time, which over time have become a social norm. And laws emanate from conventions, they emanate from traditions or usages, you know, and they are consulted, you know. In our relation with the United States of America, we have the Millennium, how do you call that? Development Authority, the
Yes.
Millennium.
Through which we access the Millennium Challenge account.
When we get the Millennium Challenge account,
Well, we've had AGOA, etc.
AGOA and all that, you know, the free trade arrangement between us, and you gain all that. You have, Ghana was, as the president observed, the first country to benefit from the Peace Corps when it was announced in the 1960s. We got our Kosovo Dam through their intervention, and etc., etc. We have established a consistent good relation with the United States of America. In the President Kufuor's regime, he signed a prisoner exchange agreement. That also cements the relationship that exists between us and the United States of America. We have consistently been good friends and good playing partners, you know, since time immemorial. And so when there is this idea that there should be, the United States has come to a point when they can no longer keep these prisoners because they see them not to be prisoners, they see them not to be people who have offended their laws or the laws of our common humanity. They are not terrorists, and so let's ease them, let's clear them out, and let's give them their freedom. And you sit in this country and say, we don't want people of such nature, just because of the tag. It's a double punishment. You are punishing them for something they have not done. They haven't committed any terrorist act. You are impairing their image by also continuously tagging them as convicts, as prisoners, as, you know, not as terrorists, you know. So let's remove that image from them. They are human beings. If they decide to come here and ease themselves into their own countries, I don't see anything wrong with it at all. You don't need Parliament.
But is it not contradictory that now the United States, after 14 years of holding them captive, after initial covertly or overtly putting together a dossier about them, saying that they've been part of the 55th Brigade of whether it's Osama bin Laden or the Taliban, etc. Now all of a sudden says they've been reformed, or perhaps because they've not been charged, even though they've been held captive.
There's nothing called reform here. They have done nothing.
Okay,
they have not been charged. They have not been
held
charged.
captive for 14 years.
And it was wrong.
For no reason.
Yes,
Okay,
it was
now
wrong,
the United
completely
States
wrong.
says that now we have seen reason. We've seen that you committed no crime.
Yes.
But is it, the main thing is that they have a group of terrorists and they feel that some are a lot more mild, some could be well accommodated than a lot more others. And so, well, Ghana is the best place, just like the other 51 or 52 countries that have also taken
the people chose Ghana because they know what Ghana represented in their lives and the lives of many, many freedom fighters. They chose to come to Ghana, and Ghanaians were, the Ghanaian president was consulted, and the government decided that after due consultation with all security agencies and the needed security agencies and individuals, we have decided that we can have them here. And he talked about national interest. In fact, that is our national interest. The definition of national interest is whatever you will do in your relation with another nation that benefits you. If by relating with the United States in this matter, we project our concept of freedom for all, which we have always strived to do, then we are projecting that interest. We are projecting our freedom. We are showing to the world that Ghana is a place where you can find freedom. And this is one clear example of it.
Ronnie.
I know you want to say something, but
Yes,
in response to that, we have, if you can just take a look at it, the Brookings Institute. And the Brookings Institute is a think tank based in the United States. And indeed, since 2008, has been advocating for the release of some of these prisoners of Guantanamo Bay. And Mohamed Benate, for example, the one who is a subject of focus for the interview of Evans Mensah, is said to have been listed among those who have been illegally held by the United States of America. Indeed, you take a read of literature, and we know now you can find a lot more literature on Google and a lot more of the web, that for all the allegations, and I'm reading, that were leveled at Mohammed Ibn Atif, nothing has been proven. Indeed, he said the military alleges that they traveled to Afghanistan for jihad. It's not true. The military alleges that they took military or terrorist training in Afghanistan. It's not true. The military alleges that he fought for the Taliban, and they said it's not been fully proven. And he says that indeed they were among 82 detainees who were having statements taken from them and taken through tribunals, but do not bear any military allegations against them, and so had always been advocating that they be released.
Yes, there have always been two sides of the coin.
So why do we decide to argue on only one side?
The U.S. Congress on itself. My brother was talking about compassion and humanity and hospitality and all that.
No, that was for the president.
I didn't
the president.
From the president. But you're echoing what the president just said.
No, I'm talking about our freedom.
Are you not in tune with what the president?
No, he talked about his Christian
let me
compassion.
Let me flow there. You see, the U.S. Congress itself have rejected the request to integrate these people in the
and indeed, some of the states.
Yeah.
For example, South Carolina, which usually would have been taking custody of many of those.
Yes, they have done so. So both sides of the Congress, both Republican and Democrats, were in unison on this aspect. Then again, you're talking about the national interest and all that. In 2007, under J. Kufuor, His Excellency's government, U.S. proposed to set up an AFRICOM, a base here in Ghana, a military base. And we heard we heard Ghanaians, we heard everybody talking about that kind of arrangement, because we thought it was to invite unnecessarily these so-called enemies or antagonists of the U.S. and its allies. The government then, at cabinet, met and decided and said it will not be in the interest of the people of Ghana. So the whole thing was killed there. In fact, they were preparing a memo, a bill for Parliament to look at it. But it was killed at cabinet because they considered the totality of national interest.
Is it the same thing, establishing a military base in Ghana to bring in two supposedly alleged terrorists into our country? Are the scenarios the same?
Yeah, it's akin to that. It was a U.S. request, and we are just trivializing the whole thing by simply saying these are innocent people and all that. Whereas in the U.S. itself, those who created the whole problem, this Guantanamo was created aftermath of 9/11, when the World Trade Center was brought down, and U.S. wanted to go for the perpetrators, and they did so. And Guantanamo is a no man's land, so to speak. It is outside the legal jurisdiction of U.S., so U.S. law does not apply there. That's why the argument they used to keep them there. So for 14, 15, 12 years, they've abused people's rights, their fundamental human rights.
So you do agree?
I do agree.
So you agree that these individuals could be two of the many who have had their rights abused?
Exactly.
So what's wrong? What's wrong if we want to shelter them?
On what arrangement? The people of Ghana want to know. on what
You've
what
got a
basis?
legitimate point.
So if it is one of the three that the Constitution so professes,
Fine.
then the president ought to have come to Parliament.
Do you think, as a member of Parliament yourself, and somebody who has had extensive sojourn or let's say experience in politics, government should have at least put this very matter before Parliament? Because really, they are the representatives of the general electoral populace.
And government should put it before Parliament for Parliament to do what? Oh. Because what we do in Parliament is for Parliament is when we have to rectify conventions, when we have to pass laws, okay, and when government has to inform the heirs about the travel of the president, and
look at agreements,
and and conventions and agreements, okay, and all that, you know.
So doesn't it fall?
But if the president
it's just a request,
if somebody is requesting that, oh, these people, we have found that they are innocent, so we want them to go back to their country, but for them to have,
you don't agree this is no ordinary request?
I have, in my years in Parliament,
This is international relations.
I haven't seen a situation where such a decision, which is given, the power is given to the head of states to represent Ghana nationally and internationally, and that he can take such decisions as to ensure the closeness of countries to us and to enhance our relationship with other countries. On day-to-day life of a president, he takes such decisions. And if he takes such a decision,
nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that. He doesn't need to go to Parliament at all. If he goes to Parliament, what does he say? That, oh, they have asked me to take some 2 prisoners who were found not guilty, but just to cool off and go to their countries. Parliament, what do you say about it? What do you want Parliament to say? You know, this is
but Parliament is a representation. Is a representation of the people.
And the president is the representation of the people. He is the representation of the people as well, and he takes decisions on day-to-day basis on behalf of all Ghanaians.
But the separation of powers is here is to check. Absolute power corrupts. To check.
Yes.
Check and balances.
I do agree with you.
Parliament is a toothless.
No, I do agree with you. There are boundaries that you don't interfere. The president has his legislative powers. I'm sorry, executive powers to exercise.
And you have the legislative power.
And those executive powers include his ability to take decisions nationally and internationally.
Let me ask you this.
Yes. So I don't think he's wrong at all.
At what point do we have to make considerations and say, well, we have a long-standing relationship, and so when you make a request, that request could be granted? Just opposing that with what we would deem to be a security or a national security issue. I'm asking this question in respect of these two who are in Ghana.
Yes, you see, the framers of the Constitution.
Because really, it's not as if they'll be roaming to around the country, going from one tourist area to one shopping mall to the other or something like that. I mean the rejects.
No, you see, it cuts across their personal, individual capacity in doing anything. You know, they come from an organization, and these organizations, we know their standpoint. You understand? And here are people who have been incarcerated. Now they are saying that they are innocent. This is not the case. Their rights have been abused for 14 years, and now you just want to dump them somehow. And these organizations does not see a good gesture in what America is doing. They are not applauding America.
If they are in Ghana,
yeah,
could there be a rallying point for which those who think that all friends of America,
yes,
are one and the same, and
exactly,
as a result of that are also part of the whole cell or the whole international force of destroying, whether it's those groups that are linked to ISIS or Al Qaeda or Islam, etc.
Perfectly so.
So
America and its allies.
So you and your ilk, you are harboring fears that we could be a rallying point for organizations and
retaliations and all that.
And rebellion groups to retaliate.
Yes, of course. That's one aspect of it. However,
the other aspect is what?
The other aspect is it's of public interest. So What
That's all.
prevents the president?
The security issue and then of public interest.
Yes. What prevents the president
You've made your point,
from
sir.
coming to?
Let's change the topic. So what will you do when Parliament?
No, but you know, the people, if you say that they will come here and begin to attack Ghanaians because they think that we are allies of them, it's wrong.
Oh, no.
The people themselves chose to come to Ghana. They find Ghana as a place they think
they can begin
find,
their life.
Yeah, freedom and be able to restart their lives and make.
What if they haven't changed at all? They could be here because now Ghana is a thriving country. They could be making calls and be doing all the things that they have to do.
No, but you say it is not as if they are left on their own.
Okay.
You know, there's...
And you see...
Organized labor is expected to meet government today over the recent increment in petroleum products and taxes. And the meeting was scheduled for today after an earlier one held with the Employment and Labor Relations Minister, Haruna Iddrisu, to have the increments reversed, as initially was also postponed thereafter. Labor is asking government to, among others, withdraw the energy sector levy, which they believe has resulted in an astronomical and unjustified increase in prices of petroleum products. And the meeting today will also determine whether or not organized labor will go ahead with this demonstration to get government to reduce its utility tariffs and fuel prices, and also do something about the energy sector levy. The group will also hold a press conference, that is after today's meeting tomorrow, on Friday, to see whether they want to take any actionable actions, so to speak. You impose this very levy as a government, and now you don't even want to hear Labour out at all. Why?
Well, we will hear Labour. It's important. It's part of our responsibilities to hear what Labour will say about a decision or decisions government has taken. But the advice I have is that we need to begin to understand the dynamics in our governance right now. You know, I cannot live in a country, and I don't want to be part of a governing structure of a country where everything we need is imported. Everything we need, all the monies we need are borrowed. And you have a people who are consistently yearning for something outside the country when we can mobilize our own resources and begin to develop within. You know, I want to see Ghana change direction. And that's exactly what we are doing. We want to make sure we get all the money from here. We go to America and ask for money. We go to Europe and ask for money. We go to the Asian targets and ask for money. How do they get it? They get it through taxation. They get it through internal mobilization of resources. We are beginning to do same here, you know, and the kinds of taxes we introduce are also being introduced there, are also the kind of taxes they have. And when they tax and get money, they give it to us as loans, We are beginning to think that it is better we have our own people contribute by way of taxes rather than going to borrow and pay at higher interest rates, bringing the cedi down and creating room for more poverty to happen in this country. So His Excellency John Mahama's administration, with all these things that are happening, it's a change direction, is to apply ourselves to our domestic ability to mobilize funding here and to be able to spring out of the challenges we have in developing our economy. So I expect that Labour should join us in this direction and not to see it as inimical to their interests. If there's enough money, through the money we mobilize, we can increase you know, their remunerations, so that we don't have a situation where sometimes in the MPP regime, I know of a situation where you go and borrow money in order to pay salaries. It's unacceptable.
Well, we're also borrowing to pay interest rates.
Yeah, all these are things that we need to address radically. And doing so will mean that you will need a labor that will be understanding and that will be cooperative. And that's why I'm calling on them to begin to understand the new dynamics that are shaping our governance structure.
And I keep raising this scenario in all my arguments that I tend to give. And this is what I say all the time. You have friends in the UK, in the US, unless they have very, very good jobs, who do exceptionally well. They tell you they live just hand to mouth. They pay their mortgage fees, they pay their utilities, they have a little savings, then they are back to naught at the end of the working month, so to speak, or the wage week. It's something that is synonymous with many developed countries, but they get more than enough to invest back into their country, to even invest outside the countries. They support their industries adequately to become great multinationals and things like that. Do you buy this whole concept of it's a new trend and it's a new paradigm that we need to embark on?
There's nothing new in this. Governance and economic management has been with us world over and all that. And we've gone through all kinds of programs, ERP, whatever, PAMS card, all that. All in the attempt to
GPRS 1, GPRS 2.
All in the attempt to develop our country and then to move forward. What has happened? That an economy you inherited in 2009, the then finance minister wrote to IMF and World Bank that the economy is growing and it's robust. Economy growing at a percentage of 8.9% or 8.6% without oil. Then, matter of the year, last quarter of 2010, we had in addition this commercial oil revenue flowing in. So one would have expected that we would have grown the economy to a point of job creation. We create jobs, people are in employment, manufacturing is going on, agriculture is growing, the industries are growing. So people can be taxed, so many people. The tax net is so widened. People would have been empowered to be able to pay whatever taxes there are. But the reverse is the situation.
So you're saying you develop the economy, then you can tax well.
Exactly. The example you gave, in the developed world, all things are developed. You are taxed, of course, yes. You may be not at the end of the month, but the social interventions, what you needed, the standard of living. There are
tubes there for you to
everything.
Have less over-reliance on your car.
So people are taxed.
There are bursary grants.
People are
for
taxed,
your education.
And the monies are used properly.
But you don't think they started from somewhere?
They start, where are we now? Where did we start from? That is why in 2012, in Tamale, at the IEA debate, the presidential debate, they were asked, the contestants were asked, and Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo said, the way to go is to transform the economy, is to make sure you modernize agriculture, the backbone.
If I remember, he used the phrase Gudgesbergian.
Yeah, departing from the Gudgesbergian economy, so we can modernize agriculture.
But it's not the same idea that your opponents also.
Where is it? Where is it then? Agriculture is growing at around 0.4%. Agriculture, the backbone, and you go, you see the petroleum revenue, ABFA. They will tell you modernization. There have been the 4 thematic areas. They will tell you modernization of agriculture. Petroleum revenue funds have been used there. Where can we find that kind of agricultural modernization in Ghana here? And what has been the impact? These are practical things we're talking about. And you want to tax. A lazy government will just look at the easy target, petroleum products, and then heap all taxes on and sit by watching the monies coming in. And at the end of the day, the worst thing is you collect these monies. Kayo boys and girls in my constituency, Bantama, their sweat. You collect all these taxes, little monies, and you go and squander them under JIDA, SADA, dubious judgment debt payments, and all those things.
But we should clarify that the bulk of the taxes are paid by those who are in the mostly the formal sector, and those who are adequately captured under the tax.
Yeah, teachers.
Your KIAs and things don't directly fall under the tax debt. I'm not saying they don't pay taxes, because whatever it is they buy, they are captured within the VAT remit. Okay, exactly. So sometimes when we're doing the argument, we should do the education.
No. They are taxes.
I know that for sensitivity's sake, you want to appeal to people's
by the
sentiments.
local government. They are taxed.
I do understand what you're saying. I'm saying when it comes to the most tax, they are not the most. You keep arguing that, all of us are arguing the government is taxing the same people all the time. But it's also because we have a certain formal and informal sector, and the informal sector.
Ronnie, the woman selling
So you're saying government has no clue, has no ideas how to manage the economy.
Exactly.
And that is why it's embarking on this way of economic management.
The simplest, lazy way of...
So you're saying government doesn't have the requisite skills to do that?
That is the end result. We find ourselves in this quagmire of despondency because of the... Senior, please, allow me. Because of the... We've not managed the economy in a prudent manner. We haven't done that.
Lawyer, point has been made.
I think that one of the challenges we have with the opposition is that
they're not entitled to make their views?
Oh, of course, I can say that.
Okay.
They are unable to efficiently oppose and bring out the idea, the reason of their opposition well. And it is worrying because it poisons the atmosphere.
Well, they have prudent points.
Yeah. The idea is that this economy we are running is not the same as the economy they ran. It's the reason when we took up the economy, we shot it, the growth shot up to about 14%.
And that's what we talk about as the quantum.
Growth,
GDP. Yes.
Our growth shot up to about 14% and began to simmer down because of all the combination of economic activities that are that we are embarking on. One of the key areas of our intervention is to make Ghana a truly middle-income economy. And that means that you have to match infrastructure.
But their argument is that you're not doing enough because even though you agree that these are the things that need to be done, you just don't seem to be taking the right steps.
No government, if you check the records, for the 3 years, no government has done infrastructure as much as President Mahama has done.
No, don't tell us that again. Don't belabor the point. We do understand that. You've built a lot more schools. But
and borrowed so much.
So I'm saying that
85 billion Ghana cedis.
You are making me lose my trend, of thought. But I'm saying that, you see, when you take the economy and you summarize it and say that we are taking tax and that is the easy way of doing things, it doesn't bring out the real reason you should be opposing the economy. I mean, our economic policies. There are various things that we are doing, and I just cited our infrastructure fund and then the infrastructure that is going on in this country. He also talked about agriculture. You see, where in an economy you have an introduction of oil, you have an increase in manufacture going on, you have an increase in service, like tourism, raking in more money.
The manufacturing sector, we've seen growth? Is that what you're saying?
There's growth in manufacture.
In manufacturing sector?
Yes, there's growth. Check the records.
My God of mercy.
There's growth in the manufacturing industry. Now, if there is such growth recording in these areas, the repercussion is going to be that more people are going to move in from agriculture into those areas, into service, into industry, into manufacture, and even which also has to do with the oil industry, mining, quarrying, and all that. So we cannot just look at it and summarize it as if to suggest that once there's a decrease in agriculture, therefore the economy is not doing well. It's because there are a combination of factors, and some other areas are going to be affected. So in the end, we are seeing an economy that is performing well because it is an economy for the future. We are creating a situation where a takeoff will have a sustainable impact on the growth rate of our economy, and it will eventually create more value for us. It will create a situation where we can mobilize our funding domestically and be able to create an investment climate, adequate investment climate for the people of Ghana. We're encouraging lots of investment that are coming in. For the first time, we are building another seaport through a PPP arrangement. We're expanding the Tema Harbor,
And all these show indeed that the economy is growing.
It's growing and it's doing well.
Is it that we don't have the foresight to know once the economy is expanding? It means a lot more people will be having demand for a lot more goods and services. And so if we haven't put in place the right policies that would ensure that the manufacturing sector is able to produce enough to meet demand, the market would have to look outside, and that is why they will keep importing. And so ourselves, we've not done so well with the policies that will cushion local industry.
Yeah, that's the beginning. You know,
So this is the beginning now.
This is the beginning. We cannot just jump and solve the problem
from year
at
one
once.
and get to have benefits of year 20.
Yes.
Okay.
It has to be gradual, and it has to be consistent, and we have to be focused. You know, policies have to be sustainable, and we want Ghanaians to carry Ghanaians along to begin to see exactly what we are doing.
Okay. And I know that he's saying all this in the milieu of the argument that Labour really needs to, one, empathize with government, but also know that this is the current state in which we are. And
a better economic state.
Well, I can make that very conclusion.
My colleague has said, the economy
because I know that my tariffs are being increased, and I pay a lot more for petrol in my car, and so I can. But the point is that I do see that the economy has expanded from the time that I may have been a younger man.
More than
100%. Ago. Okay, so but at the end of the day, I don't know whether the argument is about if the right management policies have been put in place or not.
Ronnie, it's so simple. Why are we at IMF? Why are we?
You tell me.
We are there.
You tell me.
We are at IMF. We all asked, and the president said, we are going to IMF to seek policy credibility. So we are at IMF because our own policy initiatives had not been credible enough. We've not been able to use our policies through.
But we're IMF because we've had overruns. Because we.
That's your. Okay.
Yes, and I know the president may have said that he needs policy, or he said we're going there because of politics. But it's just the political communication of it, is that not it?
No, the reality of it is that we have not been able to do our things properly. The fiscal discipline has not been there, and that we need to go to IMF for certain guidelines so we'll be able to. It's like your little kid. If he comes home with the homework out of his own, he gets the homework done and all that, you are happy, the child is happy. But if he refuses, you are supposed to use the cane on him to make sure he does the homework. So we are at IMF for Master IMF to use the cane on us. So we do the right things that we ourselves have professed to do. So your policies are your own initiatives. If you're able to do them and take them through, why run to IMF for what credibility in that? We have failed ourselves and our people. We must accept that. Politicians, we must. And NDC, you are in government, you must get ready to be out of power so the next elections, a new government is ushered in so we can restart. All Ghanaians can come along.
A new government led by
new thinking. None other than Kweku Kwadu.
Well, I'm very happy that Ghanaians are beginning to see the need for us not to have a change in government at all. In fact, they have.
The Ghanaian people told you that?
They have consistently we have consistently supported a second term from President Mahama, and he's done things that nobody has done in recent history. We are happy about that. His infrastructure development is legendary. His leadership style is legendary. His international politics is giving Ghana a good image. And we are happy with who he is and what he's doing.
That's why the complaints by the ordinary Ghanaian that the taxes are high.
And I like the point he made that if a president is there to take popular decisions, he's not a president. You should take decisions.
Then he becomes a high life singer.
In the interest of the people. And it is only long after that you begin to thank him and praise him for all
one thing I do know though, and I know one thing you also know out there, one thing all of us know in the studio is that if you're a leader, you need to take guts decisions. You need to have guts, akukuduro. Otherwise you can't do anything, whether you're a middle level manager or you're a leader in your home. You just need to put your foot down sometimes, and we hope that we'll all be the better for all the things that we are complaining about or want to be done or are also experiencing. I have had in the studio Dr. Abdul Rashid Pelpo. Is a member of parliament for Wa Central, but also the Minister of State or the President in charge of the PPPs and also the private sector. Thanks for joining me this morning. I wish you well and Happy New Year to you. And also joining me for the new year, first time here, is Nana himself, Chairman himself, and Henry Kwabena Kokofu is a member of parliament for Bantama. He's also a legal practitioner. And thanks for joining me, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Nice. Okay, we're taking a break. When we come back, we're talking the subject of epilepsy. And we know that for many of us, well, when we get to witness such incidents, we think that we're far off. But the thing is, the whole thing about providing compassion is also making sure that you empathize with the families and the individuals who perhaps are epileptic, but also get to have a lot more insights and knowledge about the abnormality. And so we're here to talk a lot more about it. We're taking a break. When we come back, Mama V, also Abwaji, will be here to do a lot more enlightenment on the subject. Do stay on.